Well, happy Mother's Day, everyone. Down here at the old 200 Beverly, which is the old Imico site, and wanted to do another video on this because some things have come up that I found quite interesting. First of all, like I've talked to a lot of the residences and a lot of the businesses right around here, and they've been looking at this eyesore for the last 30 years. The city has spent millions on consultants and studies and done environmental studies and everything else. And their hope has always been, one day, possibly one day, is that a developer will actually, take the bait and buy the land and then basically pawn it off on them to spend millions and millions in order to clean up this site. So every time that they've had a possible developer that's showing up here, and then the developer does their own research on that, is that they all end up bailing because the site is just too contaminated. This is probably one of the most contaminated sites in all of Guelph. But City Hall still has this mentality that they want to develop this and put a whole bunch of luxury condos or low-income housing, but the land is just too contaminated. So basically my thinking is, why not just reforest the entire area? It's basically just under 13 acres. You can reforest it, plant 10,000 trees, use grant money both provincially and federally in order to fund almost all of it. And what else do we have right now? A perfect opportunity. Who do we have in Queen's Park right now that represents Guelph? Mike Schreiner. He's a member and leader of the Green Party. So all the dots are lining up that if we wanted to do something like this to help the environment, to help as far as our numbers with the tree canopy, to help as far as, creating a carbon sink, and to let nature actually look after and start to clean this place up on its own, this is our opportunity right now, folks. This isn't going to come around again. Is that the opportunity is right now. We need to move on this. That if we actually believe in the environment, we believe that we have to increase our tree canopy. We believe that we have to have more of a carbon sink. And we believe that basically that with environmental sciences, that we can actually clean this place up. This is the time to be able to do it. And there is no greater time than right now. Even a change at City Council right now. We have a new mayor that's coming in. We have several councilors that are leaving, so we're going to have some new councilors coming in. That if we have people that want to be fiscally responsible, that don't want to continue to throw this on the taxpayer, and more importantly, that if they have any inkling at all as far as wanting to help the environment, this is the time to be able to do this. I think that this is going to be one of the lightning rod issues in this campaign for Ward 2. I honestly believe that. I've talked to many of the residents and the businesses around here. You're sick and tired of what's happened over the last 30 years. This is an eyesore, and the only thing that the city has actually really done is put a fence around it. That's it. It's time to be able to get serious and to start moving on this. Is that within 4 years, we could plant 10,000 trees here quite easily and then let nature take its course. And basically with planting the trees, whether they be willows, whether they be poplars, in the most contaminated parts, they will absorb a lot of the contaminants, dissolve a lot of the other ones, and more importantly, as far as the water and the contaminated water and the runoff that's happening right now that's seeping into neighborhood properties, that would stop. Because the root systems would basically hold all that stuff in here and then start to clean it on its own. So you can probably tell I'm a little bit passionate about this. I don't consider myself an environmentalist by any stretch of the means, but this makes sense. Is stop wasting taxpayers' money. Let's use the grant money that's already there. Let's use the connections that we have immediately right now with Mike that's at Queen's Park, and let's get this done. One of the other things that was quite interesting is just a few weeks ago I actually met with one of the city councilors and I talked about this very site, and immediately afterwards they went back, contacted the mayor, and say that we need to reestablish the brownfield, plan as far as, consulting and doing more data and everything else. And so they rushed that through a council meeting, but even the city clerk didn't even have the information at the time. So they're putting this all together, and the sad thing is that city council as a whole voted unanimously on it. And I don't think they really understood what was actually going on, but that was a political move, obviously. And more importantly, it was to basically try to stop from, from this ever happening. And so I understand that, but there's 3 key points I want to be able to address. First of all, in 2023, March 2023, City Council unanimously voted that we needed to increase our tree canopy. Is that in the next 50 years or so, that we needed to increase our tree canopy and plant 3.8 million trees. They made a big deal about that, lots of fanfare, doing the whole virtue signaling and everything else. But what's happened since then? In order to meet that 3.8 million trees, to be able to meet that target, they need to be planting roughly about 87,000 trees a year. Every year for the next 46 years, they need to be planting 87,000 trees a year. You know what their target is, their best year they've had so far? Just over 24,000. So less than a third of the actual numbers that they are proposing that they want to be able to do, they're failing on a grand scale. We could put 10,000 trees here, folks, use provincial and federal grant money to be able to heal the land, to be able to dissolve a lot of the contaminants that are here, absorb a lot of the others, break down a lot of the other ones, and more importantly, to be able to keep the contaminants on site, is that the water won't be seeping off into neighboring properties or anything. So this is not only about as far as trying to keep our word as a city, because right now we're missing the mark big time. We're only planting in our very best year a third that we actually need to be planting if we want to hit that target of 3.8 million trees. So just another thing to think about. I'm going to ask any of the other candidates that are actually running in Ward 2, right across the city. Let's do it right across the city, because everyone has a vote at the Horseshoe, and they'll probably end up voting this down. But the other candidates, where do you stand on this issue? Do you believe that we need to be able to, that climate change is real? Do you believe that the fact that we have an opportunity right here in order to do something significant as far as planting more trees, creating a carbon sink, actually healing the land here and turning it back to its natural self again? Or do we want to just cross our fingers and hope, and maybe possibly like we've been doing for the last 30 years, that somehow that this will, end up turning into some kind of a housing project? It's not. There are many better sites throughout the entire city than this one. This has got to be the worst site in the entire city to be able to be looking at, because of the amount of contamination and the amount of millions and millions that would take in order to try to clean this up. It's just not worth it. And it's been proven, is that we've had one failed venture after another, and we've had people actually make a mockery of this whole thing as well. If you remember the old Tucker brothers, and I know that upsets a lot of people, but I have to mention that, is that it's been one failure after another, trying to pass this off to everyone else to get them to clean it. And of course, no one's going to do it, because there's absolutely zero return on this property right now. So I'm asking any candidates out there, where do you stand on this issue? Do you believe that we do have a climate change, that we have a perfect opportunity right here in order to make a difference? Not only that, but we have these homes directly right across the street, is that finally their property value will start going up. We have businesses down here that have contaminated water seeping off of this property onto theirs. We're in a lawsuit right now with with one or two businesses as well. That's been ongoing, that the city's fairly quiet about. Again, we have an opportunity to fix this situation. To me, it seems so logical, but we need to change the minds of a few people at City Hall in order to make this a reality. And if we have a strong mandate come October 26th, this will happen. And this will be an issue that I will bring it up with anyone that's going to be running for mayor as well. Where do you stand on this? And because I know right now, unanimously, they voted to be able to just throw more consultants on this, collect more data on this, and basically say, wow, look what we're doing. And they're doing absolutely nothing. Nothing's changed. Nothing will change with that kind of mentality. Sometimes we just need to do it on our own, and we need to use just common sense and make the right decisions. And folks, the right decision for this particular spot is 10,000 trees using grant money, not taxpayers' money, but money that's already there, so that we don't have to increase our property taxes even more, and just let Mother Nature look after itself. One last thing, and this is something that's close to my heart, is that if we end up moving ahead with this, imagine the educational benefits for our children and grandchildren for years to come. We have an object lesson right here where decades ago man came with industry and everything else, and we end up soiling the land and contaminated it. But because a few people stood up and took a stand, we were able to heal the land, to be able to turn it back to its natural self. And imagine the education point that I will teach your kids about the fact that from catastrophe to something that's beautiful, we can make that happen in our lifetime. At the beginning of every City Hall meeting, what's one of the first things that they have? They have a land acknowledgement. And part of that land acknowledgement talks about what? About being good stewards of the land, restoring it back to its natural self, looking after the land, healing the land, everything else. Folks, that every time you hear that land acknowledgement going forward, I want you to think of this site right here, because this is exactly what we're talking about. Is that we came here, we destroyed it, now we have an opportunity to be able to fix it. And that's basically all I have to say on it. Again, I'm a little bit passionate on this because from a fiscal standpoint, this makes sense. This isn't going to cost us millions of dollars. We're using grant money, and we're using the leverage that we have in Mike, that's in Queen's Park right now. And it's not going to cost that much to be able to do this. We could start planting the trees in the next couple of years. We could say this has been looked after. Mother Nature will look after the rest of it. And we've done something positive. We have lots of other places that we can do a development. The most contaminated site in all of Guelph probably is not the one that we should be fighting over. This should be just a very simple decision to make. But we have people have grand ideas for the site, and they keep hanging on to that, and they've been doing that for the last 30 years. And where has it gotten us so far? We got a fence. That's it. We got a fence. Again, my name is Alec Purvis. I'm running for Ward 2 here in Guelph, Ontario.